Hi guys, get ready with me while I talk about something that's been on my mind a lot as a reader, and that's that romance books are getting really predictable. Obviously, I still like romance books. I know what I'm getting myself into. I read them for a certain reason, and a part of that is because of how predictable they are. But it's getting to a point where I feel like I'm reading the same book over and over again. So I'm gonna do my makeup while I kind of rant about this. So I just have this. I need to get a new bag. I'm running out of space because I'm getting more into doing makeup, so yeah. So just to get into it, I feel like there's a really big difference between predictable in like a comforting way and predictable in a lazy way. And I feel like that line is kind of getting blurred. It doesn't feel like authors are wanting to be predictable. It's just that they're being lazy. There's not a lot that they're trying to do to make it unpredictable. There are certain authors that I'll read that they come out with multiple romance series. Sorry, my camera. There's a bunch of like small, like 300-page little romance books, and she'll come out with a bunch of them in like different series, obviously. But I had a really hard time going through them. I'm talking about like Twisted Love and all of that. I loved those books. Trust me, I loved them. But when I got to like, what was it? Twisted Hate, or the Hate one, I had a really hard time reading it. I could not get through it because it was so predictable. The plot line is just so up and down. And like immediately you know who the love interest is, which is, I mean, like, it's on the back of the book most of the time. But I don't know, sometimes I don't really read a lot of books these days that are like, you know, let me figure it out, you know? It's always, this one is having this problem and she's trying to figure out her life, or he's figuring out his life, and you know, you already know going into this. The minute you meet that person, it's like, okay, something's gonna happen. You're gonna have like a little trope. You're either gonna be stuck together, you're gonna be doing this, and then something bad's gonna happen. We always know when it's gonna happen. And like, you know, before you even read the entire book, well, this kind of looks crazy, you kind of know what's going on. You know it's coming. The third act, the conflict, is one of my biggest complaints when it comes to things. And there's also a really big thing that authors like to put in it: miscommunication. I personally hate books where it's like they just don't talk. Something happens and nobody is talking about it. Like, it was just this big thing, and then, you know, it hurt whoever it hurt, the guy, the girl, whatever. And now they're just arguing. And, you know, the guy, the girl, whoever doesn't know the full story, and they're just like, this is horrible, you know? How could you do this to me? And it's like, it's not that bad. I know it's not that bad. I know, like, in 2 chapters, you're gonna spend 2 chapters crying and maybe going to your best friend about it and staying at her place because maybe it was a forced proximity thing. Maybe you guys ended up living together for the time being, and then you have to go stay with your friend because you can't stay in the place he's staying in. And then he's gonna like come banging on the door, or you're gonna run into each other while you're getting your stuff or something like that, you know? And that's gonna happen, and then that's like in 2 or 3 chapters maybe, and then suddenly they like each other again. That's my roommate. So it's just, I always know at the very beginning when they say, oh, I'm living together, you know something bad's gonna happen. So yeah, and adding on to that, don't get me wrong, I love tropes. I think like sometimes they're just so much fun. Like the one bed trope, it's like, yes, that's fun. do things like that. Like, that's great. Like, I really like them, but they're not being done any differently. All of them are so repetitive. They're the same thing. Like, obviously, that's why I'm making the video. And it's just, there's enemies to lovers, but they're not really enemies. I feel like romances aren't very good at doing that. I think fantasy books are really different. Like, if I was to get into fantasy books, I will, like, talk about them. I think they do a pretty good job at just doing actual enemies. But I think romances could probably take a few notes from, how fantasy books are doing it. Because, and forced proximity, I'm talking about it a lot. Do you see how easily I just made a plotline from it? And there are so many books that are doing that exact plotline. It's predictable. It's the same. Everybody is doing it. It's easy to write. It's lazy. It's not comforting. It's lazy. Or, like, he secretly liked her the whole time. I can't really complain about this one because I'm trying to write a book myself. And there is a character who's like, he secretly liked her the whole time. Yeah. But, this is when I say mine's different, but I don't really know. But it's the same setup, same execution, just different character names. And even that too, it's getting to a point where the conflict isn't, like, it's just their ideas are different or something like that. There's no outside party anymore. By the way, often when you're looking at a romance story, they have a horrible father, a horrible mom, orphaned. It's so easy. And I get it gives that person a backstory. I understand because I'm also doing that to my book. But you have to get a little creative with it. I'm realizing I'm doing a lot of yapping and I'm not doing a lot of makeup. And romances, they're cute. They're definitely a feel-good for me. If I want to read something where my character isn't dying every 5 seconds, or like my favorite character isn't gonna die, then I'll go to romances. If I'm feeling sad, I'll go to a romance. Or I'll just go to my favorite book, which is kind of a romance, but it's romantic-y. But I also saw someone bring up the fact that all romance books look the same. And that honestly could not have been more true. When you look at a romance, all of it is like, they're on the beach or something, or it's like some cute book or like some cute color, and you have the drawings of them, but they all kind of look the same, which I understand. That's the template they go into. Their romance, you want them to be a little more lighthearted and cute and all of that. That's great, but it's getting to the point where this cute is so normal. It's the only thing that is there. Nobody's trying to be extra creative with what's going on. It's just the same thing. And I'm talking a lot of bad stuff about this. I'm saying that this maybe sucks a little bit, but at the end of the day, I do still read them. And sometimes it's because you want something predictable. I know that when I'm reading a romance book, I want the predictability of it. Sometimes I enjoy the predictability. If that's what I'm looking for, then that's what I want. Sorry, my roommate just got back from class. She knows I was gonna film this video today. And something about romances, I read them because I don't really want to think. Fantasies, dystopian, all of them, you're thinking. You're trying to, figure out the plan with all these people, and you know what's gonna happen. You're doing all of this, and yes. And sometimes there's more thinking than feeling at times, which is fine. That's their romance, their whatever. But romances are for feeling fun. You're doing all of this, and that was a lot. That's gonna be a problem. But like you know there's gonna be a happy ending. In like fantasies, you cannot get too attached to those characters because they're going to die. You know they are. Everybody knows the characters are going to die. So why do you even, you know, you don't go to a fantasy because you know, want to feel something unless you want to cry. That's actually a reason why I do like to read fantasy. Sometimes I need to cry and it's like, okay, I'll just go read a fantasy book. But yeah, like, you know you'll get the happy ending. You know your favorite characters aren't really going to die. And it's just comforting, you know? What bothers me isn't as much as, like, it's not that the predictability is so horrible. It's that the execution of the predictability is so horrible. Like, sorry. There's a bad conflict that only lasts about 5 seconds, and honestly, it might just be a stupid conflict. And in my humble opinion, some conflicts are so stupid. I don't like them, I don't understand them, I think they're stupid and could be fixed so easily, but they never are. Endings are rushed. You can tell either the author was on a deadline or just no longer wanted to write this book, so they didn't put as much effort into the ending as, you know, it normally would. Or, what am I saying? There's not as much effort being put into it. There's no emotional depth. I'm reading a book right now that I will be talking about next week in my April Reads video. There's no emotional depth. And sometimes that can just be because the author is just like getting started. And sometimes it can be hard to write, it's understandable. I get it. I'm struggling with it a little bit, you know, as I write my own book. But, you know, there's a certain part where you're trying to read a romance and you're like, wow, this is so surface level. The book I'm reading right now, it's not romantic. It's lustful. There's no emotional depth. It kind of skips over everything, and it just, you know, or a miscommunication when it's like dragged on so long. Please just talk. Like, I don't know how, we are grown adults. In most of these romances, we are grown adults. And you can't, like, have a conversation? Why are you in a romance? Like, sorry. It's the morning. That's my breakfast, my smoothie. But yeah, if you're gonna make a predictable story, get me invested. Like, I want to feel with the characters. And a lot of books are really struggling with that, in my opinion. Or maybe not a lot of them, but recently the more I read, it's getting difficult. The more I read, I realize that some of these books being published belong on Wattpad. Not a bad thing. Wattpad is good if you're starting to write out and you want to write something long and, you know, you can't really publish things. That's great. But not all of them are publishable. I've probably read one book on Wattpad where I would say, you know what, with maybe a little bit of editing, this is actually really good, publish this. And it's actually, It's actually called Ace. Yeah, I haven't read it in a long time. I haven't gone on to Wattpad in a while. Because, you know, I kind of grew out of it. I worked my way into published books. And I'm starting to read some books and I'm like, why were you published? I'm sorry. Not to be mean. I'm going to give my honest opinion to these things because it annoys me. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not going to say those books are completely horrible, but they could have been better. The editor could have done better or something, you know? It's not always, you know, who's writing, but who's looking at the writing, you know? But yeah, there's another book where sometimes the author goes really into the relationship, which, okay, it's a romance. This is supposed to be just them two, yeah, but at the same time, it's like, I want to get to know the character a little more, and I don't know the character. I don't know their life. I want to know more about, like, their cute, like, friendships. Like, there was a book I read, I forgot the name of it, that actually did a pretty good job. It showed her work life and, you know, like, her friends at work and hanging out with all of them, and she went out as a group. That was great. I was like, I really liked that character because I knew, you know, her life and everything. And I think my mirror is about to die. So yeah, romance books, in my opinion, are getting predictable. I wouldn't... I'm okay with predictable. I'm not okay with predictable and no effort, you know? I want them to be predictable and well done. And I can't fully say anything because I'm not an author completely. I'm not a published author. I might write my own book, but, you know, to my point of view, it could be amazing. To someone else's, maybe it's really bad, you know? I really don't know. But I've read hundreds of books. Hundreds. That's a lot of books. Not hundreds, but I've read a lot. I have bookshelves. This is my dorm, so I don't have a lot of my books here, but I do have like 3 or 4 bookshelves at home just full of fantasy, and I have a whole bookshelf full of just romance books. So when it gets to a certain point, I'm kind of losing my patience with maybe the laziness or I get people who want to write and they want to get into it, and so they start off really easy, but you have to do more. You have to build your own book, your own characters, your own emotion, and sometimes that doesn't entirely happen. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my rant. I'm not fully done getting ready. I still have to do some lip stuff. But, yeah. Thanks for listening to this whole thing, and, yeah. See you later.